I don't know about you, but I'm really interested in what the Superfans have to think about the Rings of Power. Aren't you?
Yes. All right. So I have to give some credit to Heel versus Babyface for this one because I was watching his stream, and he was the one who brought this up, and he's like, "Oh, let's listen to these Superfans," and he pulled this thing up that Amazon put out, who they delisted, by the way, and then it has currently 95 upvotes and 3,200 downvotes.
That's hilarious.
All right, this thing's getting obliterated, and it's not even public.
That's too funny.
So, we're gonna play some of this, and Joseph, I kind of want to get your reaction, and I'll jump in as well.
Okay.
I think you're gonna really like this.
My name's Mr. Isla, and I'm so excited because Prime Video's new epic fantasy series, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, just dropped with a teaser trailer, and I'm here with the Fellowship.
He doesn't even seem that excited.
Chanel, Joel, and Kelsey.
Seems very forced.
Very excited after watching that.
Come on.
Very intrigued to just see everyone else's thoughts and just gather what we all think.
That's what we're here for.
He's like, I'm going to gauge what I think based on what all of you say, but I'm a super fan.
He said, I'm only interested in what all of y'all think so I can follow suit.
That's what we're here for. All right, 3 words to describe the Rings of Power.
Doesn't even ask the other girl.
Okay. Breathtaking. I literally didn't breathe. Exhilarating and intriguing.
I didn't notice that you weren't breathing.
Yeah,
I was going to call first date.
Let me go back just a little bit. So he was asking three things that they felt about the trailer.
Gather what we all think.
That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. All right, 3 words to describe the Rings of Power teaser trailer.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Breathtaking. I literally didn't breathe. Exhilarating and intriguing.
I didn't notice that you weren't breathing.
Yeah,
I was going to call first aid.
It was like I was trying, but every time I was like, okay, take a breath, something new would happen, and it was.
And she like, and I was like, are you gonna fall off your chair?
I think she was in shock with how bad it was. I think.
Well, it was like I had told you before, where the trailer's like boom, 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 and of course it's a minute-long teaser, and that's somewhat typical. But of course, I got the feeling that they were trying to hide something.
Yeah.
And when we went back and broke it down, it's pretty clear. It's like some of the CG doesn't look so good. Like what's going on with some of the costuming? Like,
what is that? Yeah. Is that a what kind of monster is that?
Yep.
I didn't even realize it was an ice troll. I think I was watching another account on YouTube that has ties to the sources to the Amazon production.
Yeah.
And they said, no, that's an ice troll. And I was like, really? You sure?
All right, let's keep going. Look how they're all like, ha 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 ha.
Oh, no.
Joel, what about you?
Oh, I would say like expansive because we're getting this like whole new look into the second age on screen, and it's gonna be so amazing.
Whole new look into the second age. What does he mean by that?
This is. He probably just means we're finally getting the second age, which you're not really getting the second age. But.
Exactly. Yeah, we know that now.
Amazing. I also want to say representative because we're getting like more diversity within this series. Like we're seeing our first black elf, we're seeing the first female dwarf, and I'm very looking forward to like looking at that. And then
it sounded like you said male dwarf.
Hold on, I gotta stop right there for a second. He says there is representation, right? So obviously, all right. Not this guy's not a fan.
No.
He's not even like I've read the original trilogy or the original books, and I'm just excited to see some of the things that Tolkien put into this work come to life, like, and see that on screen, right? He says
none of them have yet.
No, he says he mentions diversity, and then he says first black elf and first female dwarf, and I'm excited to look at those things. Those are his words.
Oh man!
I
just want to see all the hairdressers in this show. For like the white elves, they look terrible. Then you got the black elves. Then you got Galadriel. And which another thing that bothers me is her hair in the show, because it doesn't look how it should look in the second age. Because many believe she gets her. It's kind of like a mirror image almost, or she gets some of the light in her hair from the 2 trees of Valinor, but.
Okay.
I digress. This guy is not a super fan.
Right. And that's kind of what we're getting at.
Yeah.
intriguing because obviously this period of history within the Middle Earth is very rife with notions of the plot of like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and seeing how the Rings of Power are being forged.
Definitely more than.
What did he just say?
Absolutely nothing. He seems uncomfortable talking about this. You know what I mean? It seems like he's just there because they needed to get people there to act as super fans. And
he's like,
unless there's more that reveals itself, just right now, my first impression.
Right. Well, he's saying, no, there's not. I don't think there is. He says like, he's excited to see aspects of the original trilogy in this show. Hobbit. Yeah. And The Hobbit. And then he says some other words, and then he's like the forging of the Rings of Power. And it's just like,
well, I mean,
listen, so I've listened to you talk about this. I've listened to my buddy Jake talk about this. I've listened to some of the comments from past the video we did on the breakdown, where one person in the comments very lovingly left us a massive lore dump that I read all of, by the way. And they're like my favorite. They're like my favorite people is when they're just like, hey, this is one of the reasons that I have a problem with it. And it's like 2 paragraphs of just like straight up lore. And then this guy's like, well, yeah, I can't wait to see some aspects from the movies. Oh, like how that ring, that ring that was in it, how that was made. And you're like, okay.
Oh, man.
3 words. I'll take it. I love it.
Thank you. I'm an over-explainer.
I love it.
I would say awestruck, mystified, and starstruck.
Wow.
Very strong words.
That is like the word for the next teaser trailer.
Yeah.
I think they're all syllables of each other, too.
Your name on the byline.
Awestruck, starstruck.
So in the teaser trailer, and obviously there's a lot of stuff that you probably read about it, we're introduced to the first black elf. We're introduced to the first female dwarf. Now, diversity, especially
Oh
on
my
screen,
gosh.
I
You know what this reminds me
means
of?
a lot to me
Eternals.
because
Exactly. It's like when I clipped all of them going like diverse, different. Oh, first gay character, different.
Dude, I bet you see Amazon stock drop some next year.
Yeah.
Because Disney stock dropped this year.
Yep.
And Netflix stock did too. and just so people are aware too, you're not going to get maybe episode by episode you will, but you'll really get the season 1 sentiments, how people feel about it in season 2, how many people watch season 2. It's the same thing we saw with The Witcher, right? The Witcher lost like 40 to 50 million, 30 to 50 million viewers when Netflix had gained from season 1 to season 2. When Netflix had gained 70 million new subscribers prior to season 2 coming out.
Yeah.
So,
and this is one of the other things that's, we'll just say worrisome about this, is that this is over and over again, it's reminding me of The Witcher.
Yep.
All the talking points have nothing to do with the show.
Yeah. You mean the Eternals?
No, I mean The Witcher.
You mean The Witcher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that part
I don't think
specifically,
I really
so that part,
listened to many.
that part specifically, The Witcher, right?
Yeah.
But this whole thing that's going on with the show and the fans getting attacked and people saying that they're being faithful to the lore, but then everything that's on screen is telling you the exact opposite of that thing, and it doesn't seem like they have any respect for the source material. It's like very similar.
What the best thing about this is, and that I was thinking, why did this one catch on with The Lord of the Rings so much more so than everywhere else? And the thing is that it's been adapted. I said it last week. It's been adapted into so many different languages. So many different cultures have, so many different people, right? Races have read this, and ethnicities have read this and have loved it. And like, no, you don't need to bastardize this. You don't need to insert your identity politics into the show because they already love it for what it is.
Exactly.
And if you're going to do that, you can represent what Tolkien wrote. Like you can do Rune, like I've already mentioned 100 times, and Harad and Khan. But again,
and they know that if they ever try to create their own like fantasy world and then just put all of this stuff into it, and literally look at the Eternals. I mean, the Eternals is essentially that, except it has the name Eternals. They purposely went and found a very, very niche comic. And did all of their representation, did all of their ESG, like all that stuff going into it, and it was terrible. It bombed at the box office. It got awful reviews across the board. No one liked it, right? And they know that, And so what they're doing is they're taking these series and having no respect for them, and they're turning them into those things in order to try to turn a profit, right?
Go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say,
interrupted you.
and that is why people are mad, right?
Yep.
This isn't about race. This isn't about sexuality. It's about none of those things. This is about disrespect for the people who have loved these things for a very long time.
Yep. And I think what Amazon really hasn't had any successful original series, have they? Like original series to them? Is The Expanse original to them?
No, it didn't start with them, but
Okay.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel did pretty well.
Yep, that's right.
I haven't seen the most recent season. I'm actually a little
I
scared
think like
too.
Flea did something.
Fleabag did okay. They've had successes, kind of, but they haven't had like an explosive success,
like a viral, like Squid Games or something.
Right? They haven't had a Squid Game or like a Stranger Things.
Yeah, and they're not going to get it. They may get it with this, but for the wrong reason.
Exactly. They might get the numbers. Because here's the thing. There will be people who watch this out of curiosity. There'll be people who watch the show like us because we're going to talk about it and break it down. And then you'll have people who hate watch it because people do that. People legitimately hate watch stuff.
Oh, yeah. Which is, hey, that's another method of viewership. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is what's going to happen when all of it is finished and they put their numbers out. If their numbers are where they want them to be, they'll put them out and say, see, all of those racists were wrong about the show. Look how much viewership we got. But all of us will look and go, okay, well, look at your scores across the board. Nobody liked it. Go look up videos of people talking about this. They didn't like it, right? And let's be real. There is like a 1% chance that we are 100% wrong about this show, and it's amazing, and I'm like, this is better than season 1 of Arcane. It's not going to happen.
No.
But there is always a chance. There's always a chance.
Not with the bad reboot in it.
So yeah,
I've been telling people that Jeff Bezos wanted Game of Thrones, but he didn't realize he's going to get Game of Thrones season 8.
He don't care. He's got that plaque on his wall now that they made for that like teaser thing. He's done, man. He's out of it. It exists. It's going to be around for at least 5
all of a
seasons.
sudden it drops and it flops. He's like, I've never been the owner of Amazon. What are you talking about? My name is Jeffrey Bandino.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. Jeff Bezos united the fan base for Lord of the Rings just against him and his company. That's about it.
He's restoring marriages, unifying cultures.
Yeah. Let's watch a little bit more of this.
Growing up, I hardly had that, watching TV and watching a lot of films and stuff. Never saw people of my color. So it's exciting to see that, diversity is being explored in the Rings of Power. What are your thoughts on the casting decisions?
I'm very excited for it because Tolkien's work was always about being inclusive. I mean, we see it through the Fellowship, like a bunch of people from different backgrounds coming together in order to face a common enemy, being Sauron.
Okay.
That's not even worth the response.
No. But he's like, he's kind of making a point. Because he's like, it's about all of these different people from different backgrounds coming together for the common good. And you're like, yeah, but that guy's asking about diversity. Like, you're not answering the question. Like, you're aware at the very least that, you have these elves and the dwarves, and they're not necessarily fond of each other, and the humans too. And it's on this dangerous quest for this ring, and there's a lot of because this is the way humans are. There's a lot of like self-interest in that, right? It's the thing that ultimately gets Boromir. He may have had the right reasons for what he was doing, but trying to take the ring and use it for his purposes or whatever ultimately was his downfall. So yeah, there's that, and there's a great story in there, but again, not the right thing. Not the right thing.
Nope, not at all.
Sauron, and just seeing the casting decisions, it's really, really exciting to see. It's just
Who?
going to mean so much.
Who in the
like, me
cast?
personally, because it's getting that representation in Middle-earth.
Oh,
Young
there it is.
kids are going to see that on screen, and it's just going to be really nice for them to be like, oh, hey, there's someone that looks just like me, being like an elf and a dwarf, and yeah, it just fills me with a lot of hope for like.
There's someone who looks just like me, being an elf and a
yeah.
Oh, man.
You almost had it, bro. You were like you were climbing out, and then you just dropped right back in. That dwarf looks exactly like me.
That elf, I have pointy ears too.
Yep. Oh man.
Oh man, this is too true. And again, we talk about it all the time, man. Like, I understand the points of representation. And again, there's a time and a setting and a way to do that. If you want that, then go find an author. It'd be so easy, right? We've talked about it so much on the show, how you could easily go to Africa, Asia, Latin America, wherever, right? And pull original stories from there and have an entire black cast and build have an entire fantasy world or whatever kind of cast you want, diverse cast you want, and build that utilizing that lore, and you'd meet all those quotas and things that you want, and maybe then you could actually like the source material and stuff. But again, there's a set time and setting and place to do it. What was it, the drinker that mentioned that if there's a show on a feudal Japan, right, that's a fantasy show based off of feudal Japan, and all of a sudden there are white people there or there are Hispanic people there, why, what for, how that happened?
Exactly.
A lot of questions are going to be asked. How are you justifying that? And
people don't care about world building.
Nope.
I talk with some of our friends
that
about
was
this
our biggest complaint with The Witcher.
Yeah, and I talk with people about this all the time, where I'm like, world building matters. If you have, it's the reason why we talk about the dwarves. It doesn't make sense that you have black dwarves because they live underground and there's no sun, right?
Yep.
That's world building. Now, if you were to make your own fantasy and you were to incorporate that, and you wrote out an explanation as to why this was a thing, or you said, here's this group of dwarves who no longer live underground, they moved out. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's a lot of different ways that you could handle that. And this is what world building is all about. It's one of my favorite things about Arcane is that they have this world that's around them, and it's something. And I'm going to bring this up forever now, as long as that show stays good.
Yep.
They do all these things to like implement into the world, and it all makes sense. And it's a
diverse cast.
Yes, and you don't question it because the world is big and people come from across the world to this place, right? And you understand sort of a little bit about their culture, and they're building all of that out. And this, again, is coming from someone who didn't play League of Legends.
Yep.
But what they're doing with this new Rings of Power show is they're just like, oh, yeah, it just exists. Well, why does it exist? Well, we have to have diversity.
Yep. Same thing with The Witcher, too.
Yep.
This is exactly, you go into that first scene and you go into the bar, and all of a sudden you see all different races and stuff without any backdrop.
You see all of these ethnicities living together in The Witcher in a world where people don't like people with pointy ears.
Yep.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
No sense at all.
And that's where we have this problem from. And that's why when you get these quote unquote fans and these experts coming in, right, which everyone needs to be very careful of, right? It's why Joseph and I try to be as honest as possible. Like, I'm not over here sitting and be like, I'm a Lord of the Rings expert, or whatever the case may be, or I'm a super fan. It's like, I like the books. I've read the books. I've read some of the other stuff. I've read The Hobbit. And we talk about it, right? I've seen the movies. Like, we can have a conversation in an honest and open way, and you can fill me in on certain things, and we're learning from people who are commenting about just where everybody's at, and that's one of the things that I love. And, it's a lot better than the Star Wars community, where I say, man, Star Wars' lore is pretty terrible, and their world building sucks. Like, you guys realize how much of a disaster it is, right? And they're all like, ah! And they all turn into Kylo Ren when he's like, waving his lightsaber and blowing up computers and stuff. Like, that's the Star Wars fan base. Obviously not all of them, I'm generalizing, but you get into these interactions with people and you immediately start getting called names. Whereas with the Lord of the Rings audience, it's like you can talk about this kind of stuff, and because there's so many people with a great background in it and who have like such a passion for it, you get great conversations out of that.
Oh yeah. I do. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I read The Hobbit when it was one of the first books I read when I was a kid. I'm in third grade, I want to say, to be exact. And then I didn't read I read parts of the books growing up, but I didn't actually fully read the books until 2 years ago. And then that's when I really started delving in deep into it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just kind of how it is. And we're all kind of on that journey, and we have the things that we like, and we, our goal here was like really never to be the necessarily like quote unquote experts, right? Because you find yourself in a lot of sticky situations sometimes, and we listen to people that we know this stuff really well, right? But we're also very careful about the people that we're listening to. We don't just take the person that they like throw up on IGN as the expert or whatever.
Right.
And we're done with that video. It'll be linked in our show notes and in the thing for the stuff on YouTube or whatever as well, so you can go watch the whole thing. It's like 12 minutes long, and it really is just that. It's them saying all this like flowery stuff, and then they got invited to this like screening, and I'm not even sure if they actually watched episodes of the show or if they got invited to a screening to watch the teaser trailer. It's very weird. And then they have more flowery language, and that's about it. So like they don't.
I bet they're the ones that run the OneRing.net.